Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
It's so good to see you both. Hope you're all staying quite sane and getting your fresh air on the allowances we're allowed.
Just about.
Yeah. So I thought it would be brilliant to get you both together today, just because you've both been in the whole fashion side of things for many years, but across different categories. And that's why I thought classic, from both my side of things, for working on simplistic, and Jannine, your side of things, working on vintage, and Elaine, your side of things, which you're working on vintage but with a modernized twist. I thought it would be brilliant to kind of bring together some viewpoints on talking about classic. So I guess Jannine, I'll start with you. Like, how would you use the word classic in your brand or in your definition yourself?
It's a funny thing, Siobhan, because I was thinking about the word classic and I was thinking, actually, I never use that word. So it's not really something that enters my vocabulary, although I have put on a shirt today which I thought was a classic piece, which is vintage by Anne Klein. Remind me of the question again.
So what do you think a classic piece is, or what about owning a classic piece to you? What would you think when someone says, oh, that's a classic?
It's something that transcends all the eras, doesn't it? You know, it could be from the 70s, but it still looks good today in 2020. It's a piece that just keeps on going, keeps on giving, keeps on looking right, I guess. Yeah.
And then Elaine, what would you say?
As Jannine was talking, I looked up the word classic, and classic, the first one is something that is judged over a period of time to be of the highest quality and outstanding of its kind. And then the second one, of a simple, elegant style, not greatly subject to changes in fashion. And the second one is something very typical of its kind, and a garment of a simple, elegant, and long-lasting style. And I think that's what classic is. It's interesting, Jannine, because classic, I wouldn't say, oh, my dress is a classic, because I think it's quite, my dress is a classic, but my customers have said, oh, it's a classic. So they've turned my dresses as it's a classic. And I guess it means that it's something, as you said, that you can wear year in, year out, and either feel $1 million or not feel that you're looking dowdy or out of date in any way.
Yeah. I think classic definitely is to do with quality. And I think also that classic may be a term that's used more by an older generation, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, I'm in my 50s, and I don't know whether the younger generation would use the term classic, whether it's a generational thing. But I do like the description that Elaine read out. I think that addresses what classic means to a lot of people.
Yes, I think the term "it's a classic," perhaps one thinks of, oh, really? It doesn't feel like I don't know.
I know what you mean. Do you think it sounds a little bit old-fashioned? I mean, I sometimes feel it feels a bit conformist.
Yes,
which may be why I don't use it. Yeah.
Like, you know, Clark's shoes. Oh, classic. M&S pieces. Oh, you know, classic pieces.
Yeah.
There's something, it lacks sophistication or pizzazz or unique style. Yes. But then when we look it up, then I don't mind if my dress is called a classic, something that over a period of time seems to be of the highest quality and outstanding of its kind. Like, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, exactly. I identify with the description, but maybe not the terminology. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It's so
Yeah.
broad, isn't it? Everybody, like for instance, for me, like one of my dress behind me, I don't designed that because everybody wants that classic black dress in their wardrobe. But that when it comes to the style of that classic piece, that's so broad. You can have everybody. I think everybody's taken on that little black dress, the LBD term. But when it's a classic piece, it has to be a piece that is timeless. That is, I think, should be functional for something that you could wear at all occasions. And it. But then again, yeah, it is a classic. You might well use that term, but I think it's quite lightly. And then you kind of add on extras on top of that. So for me, I'd be like simplistic and functional and things like that. But again, for me, like the word functional, I just think of, when I think of the word functional, I think of something like what a builder would wear, where it'd be a functional product that they could wear across all of their job tasks, that would be something comfortable and suitable for their job task, really. So I think you want to kind of cover your back with quite a few different alternative words.
I love the word functional for my
clothes.
Yes.
I think form follows. Functional is very important in clothes, isn't it? Because if they're uncomfortable, or I mean, I'm really fussy. If something doesn't feel right, I'm not going to be wearing it. So it's weird, because I love the beautiful aesthetic, but it has to be functional as well.
I think there's a contrast, like your dresses, Jannine, your shirts, they, in a way, already they're functional. And therefore you want to add words like beautiful, beautifully made, stylish. My dresses are rather, they're fitted, there's details to them. So I like bringing the word functional, because it's almost like the other end of the spectrum.
Oh, I think Elaine's frozen.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Having
tried on one of your jumpsuits, Elaine, I think that they are very functional, but very beautiful and classic. If we're taking that definition of classic, because that would see you through from now until the end of time, really, wouldn't it? You could just keep wearing it.
Yes. I wonder if it would be interesting to talk about what isn't classic. Like, we'll get to see what classic is by looking at what definitely wouldn't be described as classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, anyway, maybe you might think what wouldn't definitely not be a classic.
Well, I think the word simplicity comes into that. And I think that anything that is over-designed, with bits that come off and all sorts of nonsense, zips, holes, rips, I don't know, for me, those don't stand the test of time. I think simplicity. So what's not classic is maybe overly designed pieces that are following fads.
Yeah, it's when they follow fads, I think. Oh, I don't know.
What do you think, Siobhan?
Yeah, and just primarily the moment Elaine said that, it was like something like fast fashion chains that popped to mind, something like Boohoo. None of that. You would never put that into the classic bracket. That's just, to me, well, this is my personal viewpoint, but I feel it's just a cheap line that's just skipped over, and it's in luminous colours or bright colour clashing florals, which on sometimes they do look good, like the colour clashing, but they're definitely not in the classic bracket in my eyes.
And I suppose classic and timeless go together. So I was thinking Boohoo, like what you said, I think that those sorts of clothes, unless you're 22 years old and below, with young skin, young body, young vigor, you can get away with that. But the minute you're any older, somehow it looks awful. Sorry, I'm so sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
Well, I think timeless is good, and I think that's probably nowadays is ageless and timeless. So they would be like words that replace classic, because, you know, I'd like to think, but you see, I think there are things you can't wear when you get to 50. I'm sorry to say it. I never thought I'd be saying that, but I think there are things. So some pieces are ageless. You know, a 20-year-old can wear them, and a 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old can wear them. But some things just aren't.
Yeah.
And that's
like
cool.
your shirt. Yes.
My shirt, anyone could wear this. Yeah, exactly.
And Siobhan's shirt, a 20-year-old could wear it, and an 80-year-old could wear it.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And actually as well.
Do you think that term then, do you think that adds value to a product when someone's like, for instance, like you were talking about M&S, Elaine, and you were saying that's classic. I guess in everybody's mindset, everybody knows that M&S is a reliable brand that you would go to get your underpants or to get your t-shirts or something like that, because M&S is a classic brand. But do you think for a smaller, I guess like for a smaller startup, that kind of adopting that title would add a value to your brand?
Yeah, a bit like, you know, Jannine said, if it's something that you can buy and 10 years later you still want to wear it and still get pleasure from it, then that's slow fashion. That's giving you value for money. You know, this thing about only buy something if you know you can see yourself wearing it 30 times. So classic, timeless means it will stand the test of time. So yes, actually.
I'm quite interested, Siobhan, in your generation, because you're younger than us, aren't you? I don't mean to pry.
Well, broaching the 40 bracket, but yeah.
Okay. So the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds, you know, it's important to know really who your customer is and who your target market is, because are they going to understand? I don't mean this in a patronizing way. Are they going to understand the word classic? Is that going to be important to them at this point? I think simple is a word that resonates with that age group. Yeah. And I think that, you know, if you look at some of the younger brands, they're all kind of very minimal and simple. And I think that seems to speak more than the word classic. I do really think the word classic is a generational thing. I think it can be used. But what was really nice about Elaine reading out that description is I like some of the descriptors around it rather than that word. I think that's interesting. Yeah. I think it can add value to a brand, but maybe now it's about talking about it in a slightly different way. Because we want people to buy classic things. That's the whole point about slow fashion. But maybe we need to describe it in a different way. Yeah. I don't know.
So
that's my thoughts about it.
That people understand the word classic, like Jannine asked you. Does it resonate for them?
I think since I've started, I've kind of re-looked at the market. Who does? For one, it's the price point as well, and another, I think it's also for me. I want each of my pieces to be able to fit in with her wardrobe and her style identity, which I think someone in the millennials, I don't know if they've actually found that style identity yet to know what they like and what they don't like. And so therefore I think it's more a case of I'm going more for the woman who's in her generation X, who's in her, I'd say, you know, from the 40s onwards. I think she would be more the person who, she might use the word classic, but I think she would prefer, like Jannine's saying, to use some of the other alternatives, because we're at a time, I guess, where you don't want to be feeling you're wearing a classic, which means a frumpy piece. You don't want frumpiness. So you would want, I guess, you would want a garment that is, I think the simple side of things adds a bit of pizzazz, a bit of refreshment to it, potentially. And you can use classic, but I think you're right in the way it needs to be kind of I think you need to use it, but in a sentence, in a way of describing what alternatives or what else your brand is about.
Because I suppose it also comes down, classic also makes me think of, I don't like to use these terminologies, but it's quite middle class, isn't it? I think. So, you know, there's a certain price point associated with, as you were saying, with classic.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know how the magazines, they talk about you've got to have a few key pieces in your wardrobe. They don't say you've got to have a few classic pieces. So the magazine editorials, I don't think they use the word classic, do they? They say,
I think you're right there. I think you're right. I think probably key pieces.
Yeah. So I think I'd like my dress to be described as a key item.
Yes.
Rather than a classic item. But I don't mind the word classic, I suppose.
Do you think like now people are actually searching for those, let's use the word key pieces. Do you think people are actually now more inclined to want to buy a key piece of, I guess, well, in light of the whole kind of the economy and how things are at the moment? But I think since around like the craze, well, not the craze, but the beginning of everybody wanting to now know what the brand is about, what the garments are about, an appreciation for more of what that product is. Do you think this is likely to change even further in light of the situation we're in?
I think that's a huge question. I think it will be really interesting to see how the big retailers change, and you know, you might have an eye on that, you know, with your background. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, who was it? Was it you, Siobhan, who told me about Gucci, that they're only doing 2 collections now rather than 5? Did you tell me that?
Yeah, that was recently announced. Yeah.
You know, if the key manufacturers or key designers are starting to say we're only doing 2 collections, then that will slip. Then fast fashion will cease to exist, and therefore all that's going to be left are key, classic, timeless pieces, or good pieces. You know, when I think of what's in my wardrobe still after decades, sometimes they're not the fast fashion items. They are the ones that were quite a lot of money for me at the time. I love them, and that when I put them on now, I still feel $1 million. So in a way, I think everyone aspires to owning classic piece or key pieces, because everyone knows that there's a huge value to it. You know, I can't imagine that a 20-year-old who buys boho or boho thinks thinks, oh good, I'm going to buy this top for £25 and I hope that it will last me for 10 years.
Not at all.
They don't. No. Whether they think but I'm going to save up for something for £250 and I know it'll last me 10 years. So whether they then have that after conversation. And I guess we, or definitely me, because I'm older than Jannine even, I luckily, because of my age, I can look back on pieces that I've owned, and the ones that I've loved and still have and still adore were key, classic, timeless, elegant and expensive pieces. A 22-year-old doesn't yet know that 95% of her wardrobe in 2 years' time she will never want to see again, because she hasn't yet got the classic pieces.
I'm afraid I'm rather skeptical about what will change, because I think that people are pretty forgetful, and I think at the end of the day people still want to consume, and so there is like we are interested in slow fashion, ageless fashion, classic fashion. I think there's a whole section of society who still want to shop at Primark, who can only afford to maybe shop at Primark actually. So I think there are massive issues that need addressing, and I don't know whether the pandemic will, hopefully it will change certain things. You know, obviously it's changing things in that top end designer section retail. But I think also, you know, fast fashion is driven by money and probably greed, you know, so it's really whether the people in charge are able to address certain things. I mean, I don't know, it's such a huge topic, you know, what will change. I think we have to wait and see what will change, actually. Obviously, I don't know what's happening with production of fast fashion, whether it's now more difficult, whether people are still able to produce the amounts that they were producing. Maybe the amount of production has gone down a bit. But I'm pretty sure once pandemic crisis has gone, because I think it will, because history tells us that pandemics come and then they go. You know, it may be that in a couple of years' time we've resumed normality and we've resumed the amount of consumption that we were consuming. I don't know. I'm slightly pessimistic, and going by human nature, I think humans are quite forgetful, so they can revert back to previous behaviour. So I don't know what will happen, is my opinion on that.
Okay. Well, that was a good end note there. Thank you. And yeah, definitely. I think it's such a broad topic, isn't it? So broad. I mean, it's really good though to hear it from both of you, how, like, to hear things from your perspectives and how you would foresee it. And yeah, it's really a good learning curve as well, definitely.
Good. I think we can only do what we can do, and
yeah,
you know, there are bigger, higher up decisions that need to be made, and you know, we can support the people that are supporting, you know, like Fashion Revolution and all these kind of people who are really pushing for change. You know, we can really support those people, and then make our own little mark on the world of sustainable and slow fashion.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been brilliant talking to you both.
And you.
And yeah, I hope to catch up with you both soon when things gradually get back to normal.
Yeah, in real life.
I know. It seems like such a lifetime away, isn't it?